Hello and good afternoon. My name is Charles Tibbs and I'll be facilitating and hosting our meeting today. If you were here for the flight to Alaska, you were on the wrong airplane. However, if you're here for our pop-up food business council, you are in the right spot. We'll get started with a couple things. Welcome to Kansas State Olathe Innovation Campus. Really unique facility here that we're in. Does a lot of good for our world. And our second annual business conference. We're excited to be a part of this and thank you all for your participation. If you need to use the restrooms are located right down the hall. Please just get up and excuse yourself. If you have a question on the content you may have missed, don't hesitate to ask us to revisit that after the class. I will ask that we turn off or down all cellular devices. If you want to do any recording of today's event, please be mindful of your other participants' privacy and ask for their permission if you would record them. We will also encourage everyone to fill out a survey when we're finished. In your packets, you should have a QR code with a link to surveys. If you would like a paper survey, I can give you one. And for this class, we would ask that you fulfill the Culinary Center's survey form, please, and thank you. The next thing we'll do is I would like to introduce today's panelists. We have representatives from Devour and Go Chew, both two very popular food trucks, and I'll let you folks do self-introductions.
Hi, so I'm Guy Coulter from Devour Pizza, and we are actually not a food truck. We are a mobile pizza operation. So we're more of a pop-up setup, but yeah, I'm happy to be here and excited to chat with you guys all.
Hi, my name is Chewy from Go Chew Burger and Sandwich. We make Korean American fast food, and our food truck is coming soon. Hopefully by May we get that going, but we're operating as a pop-up right now. I'm not sure if we're pretty new, so I'm not sure if I'm super eligible to be here, answer your questions, but I'm excited to learn from you guys and have a conversation.
So thank you very much. I think we've got, even though we might be new at some things, I think we've got great experience in the room and some people that are going through some things that you might be interested in going through yourselves. So let's talk briefly, what is a pop-up restaurant? A pop-up restaurant is a great way for us to do a few things. The first one, it might be for menu development. I have this wonderful recipe. I want to see if it's going to work. Is this something that's marketable to the public? A pop-up is a great way to test that thing. Another great reason behind a pop-up might be for a fundraising event. Say a couple chefs come together. They want to raise some money for an organization. So the proceed from an event may go to an organization. But for the most part, it is a great way to really test the waters and find out if your food concept is viable, if your food concept is going to be able to get folks in the door. And the nice thing about food, about a pop-up is typically you're going to save about 20 to 30% right off the bat because you don't have to build the restaurant. You don't have to pay the lease on the facility. You're only paying for one day. So we'll talk about, so now we know a little bit about what a pop-up is. Let's go ahead and get into some of the heart of the matters. For instance, the first thing we need to decide when we have a pop-up is what is the purpose behind this? What's our goal? Is this a fundraising thing? Do we want to do venue development? Let's ask our panelists. So when you're doing a pop-up, do you typically, are you more research orientated? Are you more, let's build a business out of this? Let me explain that.
So I would say in my own experience, I actually started my pop-up out of my backyard. And it was kind of I won a pizza oven on an Instagram giveaway contest. And it was just kind of like, okay, I'm utilizing this oven. Let me kind of, do this for Chiefs games and, hang out with friends and family. So we started out with that in the backyard, and it kind of just built from that. I was doing pre-orders with the pop-up, and I was just kind of posting on Instagram like, hey, I'm like doing this pop-up thing. Like, if you want some pizza, then message me. And so it kind of grew organically. I would say that the pop-ups did help me kind of solidify what the menu was going to be, how I could experiment with ingredients, and just kind of see if this would be a viable business. So I think that as I grew out of my backyard, it started to kind of bring in, some strangers and things. And I was like, all right, like I maybe need to think about what the next step is. I need to find a commissary kitchen. I need to, kind of work with the health department and figure out like how I can do this at maybe a certain location. So then that's kind of where my thought was. But I wanted to do a food pop-up, but I didn't know it was going to be pizza. And it just kind of organically came from me getting that oven. I had pizza experience beforehand. So, my advice is that whatever pop-up you're thinking about doing or creating or whatever reason, you do foods that you want to, maybe share or you want to test out. So that was kind of, I had a lot of different weird pizza combinations and things that I wanted to experiment with. I had a friend that, he didn't like mushrooms. So I found a way for him to eat mushrooms, and I didn't tell him until after he ate that. But I was able to kind of have a portobello spread like on my pizza and do these different combinations so that I could kind of share and push people's palates a little bit more. But that's really, why I kind of started that, and it kind of grew into something else. So maybe a little bit different than other people, maybe starting with pop-up.
That's your story, and that's what we want to hear.
For sure.
So thank you. So you may have experienced the pop-up or about to experience one. You want to tell us about your purpose behind your concept?
Yes. So I came to the US 10 years ago from South Korea. So I was an exchange student. I was supposed to be here for 1 semester. But I loved Kansas City so much, I decided to stick around. And part of the reason was that I started cooking Korean food, but for my American friends' palate. So I was lowering the barrier, making sure what works here in America and what doesn't. So I started cooking 10 years ago. But I'm a healthcare worker right now, full-time job. About a year ago, I wanted a business. So you started in your backyard, but I just wanted a business, and I was searching for the item. And then I realized, well, I cook. All of my American friends love my Korean food. And a lot of people are talking about Korean food. So why don't I have something? And then I started developing this idea, and I don't, as a healthcare worker, I'm young, I cannot open a brick and mortar or just go buy a food truck. So it was really a lean startup concept. So I started, I wanted to test the market. I wanted to validate my assumptions. So not just giving out food or trying to sell my food to friends and family, I had to go out there and sell it to people that I don't know to see if they're going to pay money to buy it. So that's how my pop-up came to life, and it's been going well.
So thank you very much. So it sounds like both of these pop-up concepts really have organic startup in nature. And I think it's very true of a lot of great food service concepts. They start organically and they start very naturally. And again, we've got two different but good examples of ways to achieve that. So now we know we have a purpose behind our concept. We maybe want to do some menu development. Maybe we want to test some of our recipes. Our next thing we need to take a look at is, where do we do this at? It sounds like we have varying degrees of how we got started. So let's take just a moment. If you'll explain how you decided to get started in your backyard and where you're at with your brick and mortar and some of the things you're doing. Well, how did you decide on the location and what are you doing to help raise money for it?
Yeah, so I remember I actually being in my backyard, it was a good little start. I didn't really know, if I wanted to open a brick and mortar or, get a food truck. And I kind of had varying ideas of what I wanted to do with the business. It was going really well in the backyard, but it was like, all right, I can't really afford to get the food truck right now. I can't really afford to go and get a brick and mortar. So my option was, this kind of also happened organically. Someone asked me, hey, I'm doing this customer appreciation day. Like, do you want to, set up a tent and do your pizza? And so I was like, okay, like, yeah, what do I need? What do I need to do? And so that was kind of a stepping stone of, okay, well, if I'm a pop-up, what does this require? What do I need? So I got a tent and a week before the event, I got all my tables and things like that I needed, but it was a lot easier and more cost effective for me to go out there and, really push my product that way. But honestly, my choice to do that was a lot easier, lower barrier entry, to start my business, to go work with, some of my friends. Someone had a warehouse and said, hey, you can work out of this kitchen. You can, you can make your pizza dough here. You can do, make your food here. And so that'll make it easier for you to transport things and be legal. So those are kind of some of my steps. But when I was thinking about the growth of the business and what I wanted to do with, me being a tent, me being a mobile operation, how do you go from that to a food truck, or how do you go from that to a brick and mortar? So I wanted to do a food truck initially, and I was raising funds for it, and it sounded like, an incredible idea. But once I purchased a truck without any information about what I needed, dumb decision, but it really taught me a lot. I got that truck and I was like, okay, like this actually is a more heavy lift than I ever imagined. And I was gonna have to build that out. I was gonna have the required things for the health department for that. And so whenever you're thinking about growing, calculate a risk, right? Like I'm a first business owner. I have a lot of ideas. I am like such a creative and I want to do everything, right? But you have to make sure that you take the necessary steps and think about, okay, if I'm going to do this truck, is it going to be me going to buy a truck that's already set up? And then the risk of me doing this as a pizza operator is a little bit different than someone that's maybe serving burgers or serving other items. That trucks are easily accessible for those types of kitchens. So just think about what product you have. But those things had me kind of in a rut. I was like, ooh, this is not going to be the best scenario for me right now. It's not really cost effective. The pop-ups are going way better. Why don't I just think about going to a farmer's market and having a consistent spot where people can find me, where I can be known and I can have brand awareness in one location and work with the market. So that was my next move is, after kind of being all these different places, doing these different events and, maybe a festival and things like that, I was like, okay, it's time to sit down and have a consistent spot where people can find my pop-up, people can find my concept, and I know where to go what to do, and I'm there every Saturday. That was kind of a leg up for me to change the business plan and say, okay, well, I have this truck, maybe we'll table this for something else in the future, but that's not going to be my next move. It's going to be consistency on a spot to be at, on someone can locate me. I can put a calendar up on Instagram or on my website, and people can find you in that spot every single time. So there's no confusion, you know. You have, like, once you're building up that following, once you're building up, you know, people coming to your concept, you have to be consistent with that. So so that, honestly, I'm sorry I went a little bit off tangent, but to round that back out is when I was thinking about the truck is not going to work for me and my business model, you know, I shifted into saying, okay, brick and mortar. It's been 2 years of me doing pop-ups. It's been 2 years of me doing markets, and I've been consistent with those things. Now it's time for me to go and raise funds and capital for my brick and mortar. And actually, you'll find on your tables, it's our new concept, Orange by Devour. You can check it out and look at it, but we're doing some crowdfunding from a platform called Mainvest. And so, you know, there's different options in that or whatever, but that was my decision on, okay, I'm going to go from markets, and then now I'm ready to go into brick and mortar. So it was a big shift, and it took a lot of time to get to that point, but yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like your developmental plan on the location, you had to kind of change it, and you stayed fluid throughout that whole process, and I think that's wise. Do you mind telling us a bit about your decisions on locations, please?
Sure. When I finally decided that I need to test the market, I need to go sell food, I knew that it wasn't going to be either brick and mortar or food truck at that point. I wanted to do just pop-ups, and I kept searching for how. If you want to sell food, there has to be a commissary kitchen. You have, and I started looking into Ghost Kitchen in Kansas City. There are some new cloud kitchens and all that, and their rent price was like even more expensive than renting out, like going to a commercial spot and building a kitchen in it. So I was like, okay, that's not possible. And then I landed at the Innovation Center with an E. It's an Independence, and it's a shared kitchen. Starting out, you pay about $300 with everything. That includes 10 hours per month, and then it goes up from there. So I thought that would be, and it's month to month, like if you think about rent, like lease type of deal, because commercial kitchen, you have to do like 3 years, 5 years, 6 years. So that's definitely, that fit my needs. So I started out at the Innovation Center, but there's still about 100 people working, 100 companies working for 6 shared kitchens there. It was so hard for me to book the right time. Like, I want Friday evening for this event, for this pop-up. And so that was becoming a little bit difficult also for our business model. Just to go back a little bit, Go to Burger and Sandwich, I really wanted to lower the barrier. I wanted to, how I'm a healthcare worker going to Eastern Jackson County or rural cities in Missouri. I see a lot of patients, and they ask me about Korean food. They want to try it, but they're a little bit scared of the word Korean. Is it going to be spicy? Is it going to be, it's so different, right? So I wanted to make it burger and sandwich so it's easier for them. And we're making barbecue, like Korean barbecue burgers and spicy pork sandwich. That's a little bit easy, lower barrier. So with that, we serve fries, burgers and fries. And when we're doing pop-up, we're frying those at the Innovation Center. If it's like, if I'm delivering to Lenexa, if I'm doing a pop-up somewhere, even it gets soggy because you cannot cook outside that commissary kitchen. So if you're wanting to do a pop-up, but you have something like fries, then it's going to be a little bit difficult because they don't let you cook at the other site. But you can do catering or delivery. Those two are possible. There's something called Cambro, like where you put, if it's just like a pasta or something, then you can deliver or bring it that way. But so that's why I thought, okay, it's getting a lot of good attention. People are liking it. People are paying. And I validated my assumption, okay, it's going to sell. So we decided to move on to food truck. So that's where we're waiting on that.
Excellent. So it
I
sounds.
have a question over
Oh,
there.
yes, go ahead,
I
please.
wanted to know, and for your food truck that you have opening, are you still using the Innovation Center or did you?
As a commissary kitchen, yes, because I feel like I've searched around.
They were the
That's
best that I've searched for too. I just wanted to know that any other one. Yeah, they were the best.
Yeah, and then, but also there's MCPL Culinary Center that's opening up north if you're up north.
Yeah, so we are helping to expand the shared kitchens in Kansas City.
Yeah, because there's not a lot.
There are some other options popping up. If you're interested, I'll write you some things that came up during my research.
I was gonna say also to clarify, if you are pre-making your items, then you are able to cook that item there at the pop-up. So like for my pizza toppings, I have pre-made, like preheated items. So like blistered tomatoes, those are already cooked, and then I'm putting that item on my pizza and making it fresh at that pop-up. So I'm able to do that. But like with her case, she's saying, she has to pre-make those items before she transports. That is kind of, there's a little loophole when you get with that, but also other options for commissary kitchens. A lot of us look at just the larger kitchens, the innovation center, places like that. But if you work with a restaurant that is, maybe open or closed, like say it's a breakfast spot or a bakery and they close at 2, and you go and you use that as your commissary space at 3 o'clock to 8 p.m. and you kind of have a rapport with that restaurant owner, you can use that as your commissary space as well. So there are other ways of kind of getting around that. It's just like the ghost kitchen thing, but you're using that as your commissary space. So there are other options. Just you can talk to other people in the
For
kitchen.
some cities and some counties, church kitchens can be counted as commissary.
Church county.
In my neighborhood, YMCA.
Yeah,
So you will
because they have commercial grade.
go
kitchens.
through every cities where you want to be, and then you have to read through their food code. That's where when some of them say no church kitchen.
Yeah, I would say like it has to be by the health department. It has to be like somewhere that already produces food
Right,
the way
right,
the health department is.
And then we'll come up with the
Behind,
inspection there.
Just so you know, you folks are doing my job for me. I was going to segue into insurance permits and licensing. And that's really what we're talking about now. And this is probably, we got some size up here and a high roll. This is not the fun part. This is not the easy part. And in some cases can be quite expensive, more than we think. But making sure you have the proper insurance. And insurance is something that we hope to never have to use, but we do know that occasionally mistakes happen, and they're called mistakes because we didn't intend for them to happen. They will happen, and we may need to fall back on the insurance. So making sure that you have the proper insurance is crucial. Also making sure you have the right permits, and knowing what permits you need is very challenging. And I'm sure we'll hear some fun stories here in just a moment, as well as the licensings. We may think that, wow, this facility, this street corner, this business might be a great place for me to host my pop-up. However, you need to ensure that it is the right kind of place. So if you could share a little bit about some of your experiences that you have gone through in your insurance, licensing, and permitting life right now. So
Yeah, so in order for me to sign my commissary agreement with my commissary kitchen, they made me have business insurance. So you have to have that working in that facility and then working outside of that facility. So just in case, certain things happen. So I went through a spot, it's called Flip. I want to say, and I just pay a yearly fee, and then that covers me with however much insurance that is. And so it just renews, auto renews, and then it's just like regular insurance. But you know, you kind of keep that card on you. You make sure that you have that with whatever location you're going to be serving at. And then with the permit side, it really is tricky. So you know, depending on what county you are in, that you're serving in, that's going to be where you're going to need to know the health requirements for that. So I know before when I started my pop-up, I was doing a lot of pop-ups in North Kansas City, that's Clay County. So Clay County, I would work with the breweries there, and I'd have to, every single time I popped up, get a temporary food permit. And it was about $60, which I would ask the brewery, hey, can you actually cover my costs with this? And so that was a good little way for me to not rack up all of those fees. They worked with me really well with that. But time and time again, you know, you get tired of, okay, I got to get inspected every single time. It's like, you know, food trucks and food carts, they're not having to deal with this. Why isn't a pop-up able to be under that same umbrella? So when it came to Jackson County, I had a lot of issues with Jackson County. They were cracking down on a lot of pop-ups in the city, and they didn't have an actual permit for you to use annually until now. So so that actually I had to work with other pop-up owners to help get that changed because what they wanted to do was just have you do a temporary permit every single time you did an event. However, with a temporary permit, you can't go and do multiple events. So you could only do that for one consecutive time. And you had to have it in by 14 days before the actual event starts. And you have to go in person to do this thing every single time. They don't really have the infrastructure online to do these things. Like I know Overland Park, they have their own permitting, you know, system online, but with Jackson County, not a thing. So, so it was a lot of going back and forth on what could I do, like who could I pop up with, and they didn't understand the language of a pop-up. They were like, what is a pop-up? Like, no, you can't just pop up on a street corner and serve food. And, you know, you can't just do that to anyone, you know, any place. And that was really frustrating. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm at a spot every week, the same spot that you gave me a temporary permit for, but now I'm not able to serve because you said that I can only do this once. And so it was kind of a lot of back and forth, but we had to work with councilmen, we had to work with the health department's like top office to get this changed. This ordinance was where the mobile food vendors were only we're only food carts and we're only food trucks. So now, as of June of 2022, we are now able to operate as a mobile food vendor in Jackson County, and that pop-up is under that umbrella. So, but
thank you.
yes, but the stipulations with that is you can only be in 3 locations, 3 consistent locations for the year. Did you have a question?
No, only 3.
Yes, only 3. Even though a food truck can go wherever, they're not keeping track of where they are. They don't really care. You know, they can kind of just do what they want. But it was just a regulatory rule that they wanted to put in place so that they knew that you weren't just kind of all over the place. So that kind of helped with being more consistent. However, it does limit you from being wherever you want to go. So that doesn't go for, you know, catering and other things, but just thinking about a pop-up in Jackson County, that's how it is. And it's different in the Kansas side as well. You can be wherever in the Kansas side as long as you have your license, but it's a lot. It's a lot of different technicalities, and it really is kind of a county by county basis, depending on where you're working.
In Missouri.
In Missouri and in Kansas. Yeah.
So you bring up
County
some
by county.
really great points. We find ourselves in a dual state region, and a region that has several different counties that are represented. And each of those municipalities has the authority to come up with their own food code. And so it's very wise, and I think you alluded to this earlier, do that research, find out what the food code is for that area. Because again, not every area that you're going to want is going to be a licensed facility or something that can be regulated. So you're going through these same startup things. Would you like to explain a little bit about your experiences? You're looking at insurances and some of the regulatory licensing.
This is the reason why we decided to go with the food truck. And even with the food truck, there's a lot of regulations. Just cost-wise for health inspection, since we have raw meat, that puts you to level 3, which is about 3 times inspection per year, which is $600. That's in Independence, yeah. And if you want to do it in, so Independence, Missouri has their own health department. So we have to go through that, and Jackson County that covers us, Blue Springs, Lee Summit, more like Eastern Jackson. If we wanted to operate in KCMO, then we have to get another one from KCMO. And I know Lafayette County is about a lot cheaper, about $200. But if you add up, just because I want to go to Kansas City, Missouri, Independence, Blue Springs, Lee Summit, then that's already adding up like yearly cost. So when you're budgeting, when you want to do pop-up, when you want to have food truck, yeah, start like putting that into your budget. And that is maybe the cost of, it is still a good deal if you can't, if you don't want to commit to like a 3 years lease at a commercial lot, opening up a brick and mortar. So yeah, insurance, you definitely need it no matter what. And there are some cheaper ones, startups. For pop-ups, there are a lot of insurance agencies that don't understand the concept. So make sure you go to one who knows the language. I actually, at the Innovation Center, they gave me some contacts. They've worked with their clients before. So when I went there, I'm operating from Innovation Center. They were like, okay, this is your cost. So that was easy. So go to the one who knows.
And how much was that? So you have, because Flip I've used before. I loved them. They were inexpensive, so nice to work with. So what was the cost?
Missouri Farm Bureau insurance.
What is your insurance a
It's
year?
not bad. We have it somewhere written down, but I'll let you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think ours is around $650 a year. So not terrible, but the language that I use, as you were talking about being more specific about pop-ups, is mobile food vendor, right? Like that is the language that the health department's gonna like a lot better. Do not call them talking about pop-ups. Do not, ask them about that, because they are gonna assume that you are trying to be kind of everywhere, and the language that you use with the health department really kind of dictates how you are going to be treated, and also how you are going to, how smooth your process is going to be. Because if, there was times where I said, I'm pre-making my ingredients at my commissary kitchen, that made it a lot smoother for them to understand, okay, she's pre-making the pizza toppings, she's just making the pizza. That's it. Are you holding the pizza at, a certain temperature? No, we make it fresh. So it's just kind of different language with whatever food item you're thinking about serving, because it just really depends. I don't know what it is outside of pizza, but with any of the kitchens that I worked with before I started my own business, it's kind of like, even if they're coming to inspect a restaurant, it really depends on what language you're using with them. You're kind of like telling on yourself if you're speaking a little bit too much about certain technicalities. And so just go by the book, because that's what they're going by. They're just trying to check a box. So I would just don't dig yourself a hole. Just to be honest, that is
Adds up in the cost.
Yeah,
Like, do you have outdoor seating? Do you have all that?
right. You just keep it simple.
How do you keep your toppings at a certain temperature before you put the pizza together with a pop-up? You just have like a mobile refrigerator or something?
No, not a mobile refrigerator. So this is the thing is we use a bunch of coolers and ice, and that's why the health department only allows us to be in 3 different places, because a food truck is able to regulate their temperature at all hours of any time. They have a refrigerator there. They have to keep that at 41 degrees. And so for us, we have to obviously abide by being at 41 degrees. However, we can't just be out all day on a summer day popping up, we have to be very mindful of that and like what temperatures we're able to work in, but we have to make sure that our food is at temperature. And one of the ways is on those permits, on the applications and stuff, it'll ask you, how are you storing your food? How are you either keeping it warm at temperature or hot at temperature or cold at temperature? And so you have to say, like at the Overland Park Farmers Market, I have like 5 coolers that I'm taking there. I have to, because I have to keep everything at a certain temperature. So it's kind of a headache. The pop-up world is really evolving, and it just really depends on what you're serving, but just think about that, what menu you have, so that you can simplify what coolers, how many items you have to bring out somewhere, because you have to be mindful that if you're going to be doing a temporary permit or you're going to be doing some type of long-term. So
The farmer's market's okay with just coolers then?
yeah. So they actually have their own, so they go by the city of Overland Park. And so they have their own health department for the actual farmer's market. So they will come out, they'll check my temperatures, they'll make sure that everything's all good. But it's the same process as you would get if you were in Clay County or if you were in Jackson County. They just want to make sure all your stuff is at temp and that you're able to get the food at a certain temp, and that, there's just no foodborne illness at all.
Do they just pop in at your pop-up, or do they let you know when the food's done?
Well, it really depends. So like at the farmer's market, it's a little bit different because, you're there same time, same place every Saturday. So sometimes we would just get a random visit and, they'd be like, hey, we're just here checking on things, and you just have to be prepared for that. Just like if you're at a restaurant, there's going to be, health inspections at random at the beginning of the year, at the middle of the year, and at the end of the year. So you really just have to be mindful of that. But I mean, if you're doing the right things, then you don't have to worry. If you have, your test strips and things that, your thermometers, and you're keeping an eye on like all your food, your temperatures, your ice, you're keeping that, you're keeping your coolers full of ice, you're making sure things aren't melting, and you're pretty much serving things as quickly as you're, so it doesn't matter. Well, if you have a slow day, then you should be mindful of that. But yeah, just, it really depends.
Yeah, nevertheless, it's nerve-wracking. Just
Yes.
somebody watching
Yes.
me like just randomly, okay, and then I start making a bunch of mistakes.
One of the most stressful things you folks can look forward to as you develop your food business is your health inspections.
But they're like a good resource
They are.
too.
And-
You ask questions and then
Right.
they will work with you.
So I think we have some great examples of some of the challenges we face as we look at what our insurance permitting and licensing takes. We also have heard some examples of where it goes easy and some other examples of where it's kind of hard. Go ahead.
For the go-to, so I know your food truck is yet to be open. But I know like permits, you have to put them in at least like kind of 30 days before you plan on opening your truck. So with you guys, did you find, or have you even yet, did you find that it's easier to start paying for your insurance and permits now, or did you kind of just wait till right when you're about to kick it open?
When we started at the Innovation Center, they thought we already had a food truck. And then we already kind of had to go through some of the process so we knew. So we're kind of prepared for that. Yeah,
So
the
you
fire
kinda paid for
department.
your insurance like this early, you've already kind of started.
Yes, the insurance agent knows when we're getting the food truck and the fire department knows, so they're just giddying up to, do
So do you
inspection.
have to start paying like right when, or is it more like they know when they know you're open, or is it like you start the process and the fees start, or once I'm actually in the truck, then? the fees
Yes, I
start?
think they actually want the physical truck to be here because otherwise they don't wanna like do the process earlier. It's just more work for them.
Yeah, it's just like a brick and mortar. You're gonna need to get your inspections and permits and things lined up for when, before you're, open. So you just have to have all that in line. You have to be in communication with them, but like basically you just kind of schedule a time. But like the insurance you would probably already have because she's already operating, beforehand, but yeah, that's.
Great question.
Yes,
Before the food truck, where were you selling your product?
so we did, randomly, they have a third Friday art walk at Englewood Art District in Independence. I just randomly went there and fell in love and started talking to the people who operate the center. And I just got hooked up there and started setting up there. They love the food. And then we've been doing at some other places too. Like a K-pop dance groups that I like, and they do some events at Lenexa too. So those were some events that we were kind of going.
Was there like a pop-up?
Yeah, that was considered more like a pop-up.
And with the food truck, what will be, to what extent you will still be using your commissary kitchen?
Oh, that's a really good question. Actually, once you have the food truck, you have the 3-compartment sink and your hand sink, so you should be able to do everything pretty much. But you still need the commissary kitchen. What's good about the commissary kitchen, they have an amazing dishwashing system. You put things in, you just, and then the heat treatment. So that's probably what we'll be using at the end of the day. But making sauces, prepping, cutting the chicken, things like that. Storage, they have a walk-in fridge, and I'm still trying to learn that English, fridge and freezer. So that's what.
And for both of you, like at what point did you actually start, like get your business license or register for your EIN and stuff like that?
I was already developing my menu. I was not selling, but I was going to family events and friends party. I was always bringing my things and making sure, like, did you like A, B, C, B, C? And then I was making sauces every day. But then after a month or two, when that was okay, I need to start selling. That's when I registered for LLC and got my EIN number. And yeah, we're fine.
So I actually was operating for a while before, I mean, I had already gotten my LLC because I wanted to solidify that name. But I was in my backyard. I was kind of doing things just like, okay, I didn't know that I was forming a business until after a while. So I think that's when I went, I can't remember the site. It was, if I think about it, I'll let you know, but it has an option where you can get your LLC ink file. Yes.
That's where I went.
So I went through ink file, got the EIN, I had to get, the business license, all those things. And so I had to get that for Missouri because I knew I was gonna be, there doing the business. But then when I actually wanted to operate in Kansas, I had no clue that I had to be a Kansas like state business. So I actually had to file for that later on. And that was when I had already established my business, it was maybe a year and a half. So you just, wherever you're operating, thinking about getting permits, you're just gonna have to make sure that you have the right, EIN, business license, things like that, because you might have to have it from state to state. It might be a bit different, but yeah, it was early on when I had the LLC, and then I got everything together.
And when you first started in your backyard and like hosting friends and family with your pop-up, did you show it as a business or like, did you have any license? Did you have to get any licensing for that? Or was it?
So I will tell you, I was bootstrapping it. We're in my backyard, like, as soon as I started to go more public, as soon as I started to have, it was like outside of friends and family, that's when I was like, okay, like this is actually a thing. I had already, been designing the business cards and things like that. So I knew that at some point I was like, this is gonna be my business. However, once I moved outside of the backyard, that was when, okay, I need to get insurance. I need to get, get more legitimate, because you don't want to just be serving the, random people and, have something happen. So I had to make sure that I cover my bases with that for sure. But when you're starting out, like, to be honest, you got people trying things, and like, it's a lot of fees to go and buy LLC, go get the EIN, there's a lot of things that come with that. So just make sure that all right, this is my business, this is what I want to do. Because that was kind of my testing phase in the backyard. I had to figure it out and see if, is this really going to be a thing before I start paying for things that I, actually need. And so that was kind of my decision making behind that. But,
So if you have the logo and the name for it, go for it.
yeah.
I have my logo name.
Oh, great. Yeah, you should register.
So I'm Brian Summers, I run the incubator here. And I will just say, yes, as long as you're just doing the testing thing where you're not taking money for stuff, or yes, your brother-in-law wants a platter and he's gonna pay $100 for it. It's a family thing. Nobody's gonna really worry about that. But if you start doing something on Facebook, I've seen some businesses start and not go through that at all. The cheapest, it's a lot cheaper to get a license and that stuff than to pay fines. Okay. There's a lot less stress. So I tell my clients, first thing you do, get your business license. Second thing, call the KDA. Get that legal stuff out of the way. And then you're ready to rock.
And is it necessary to have an accountant from your step one while you're filing an LLC and EIN, or is it
legal what?
is it necessary to have like an accountant from step one when you're?
No, you don't have to have
No, you don't have to have an accountant. It depends on how good you are with money.
I still don't have an account. Okay. I do my bookkeeping.
I would say I definitely have an accountant, because it got to a point where I'm doing the marketing, I'm doing everything for my business. I'm the chef, I'm wearing all these hats, and it's like, okay, if I can have someone take on at least one of these tasks, then that'll help me. I still have my head in the books. I still pay attention to what, where the money is looking, if I'm profitable, things like that. Be knowledgeable about your books, make sure you know and understand what that looks like. But if, early on I didn't have one, but it was maybe after year one, that's when I got an accountant, and I was like, I need help with this, I need to get my stuff organized.
So how simple was that for you to make? Because I've always done my own books, right? So what does that process look like when you're giving that over to like weekly? Are you sending copies of receipt?
There's like a program that if you use a business credit card, it already keeps track of things, and that's all. Plug it in, and that's what they use to do tax.
So I have a similar question for you having a food truck that's opening soon. Well, I guess first I would ask, did you buy your truck brand new, or was it more like an out-of-pocket build?
We are doing a custom trailer. So we bought an F-250 to pull it, and it's an 8.5 by 20. We went through Custom Trailer Pros. Their office is in Overland Park, but
It's a little different. I was gonna ask, well, I have around the same time, I have a food trailer opening too. Yeah, so essentially, right, starting to market together, but
don't go.
from the Innovation Center, so I actually have like a double-sided question because I'm also gonna be working out of the Innovation Center when I get started. Where do you find like you would be parking your trailers? Is it more at home, or did you like buy another place to park it? 'Cause I know the Innovation doesn't do parking. I just wanna know, is it just
I
at
live in
home?
Blue Spring, and Blue Springs, thankfully, they're okay with us parking it at our driveway.
So the second would be, I guess it would be a little different for you, but since you still purchased your trailer from a reputable supplier or whatever, I'm kind of doing mine out of pocket. Is there a way that you found that you would be able to get reimbursed in taxes or anything in that sort of finance for buying it out of pocket?
Buying it out of, so
So you're talking about a business startup.
Yeah, that's what I was like, because she said she didn't do like any type of CPA starting off. I just wanted to know if you did anything like that in the sense at all.
Totally writing it off from.
Yes, there are some ways to do that. I don't want to coach you.
Don't do that. The tax would be down.
It would be worth your time.
Okay.
Any of your startup business costs would definitely be worth your time to record and research whether or not this is something that can be compensated down the road. Almost everything can be, with the exception of your products and your licensing.
Also, just to add, if you want free advice on that, score.org and SPDC, they all have free advisor. You request your one-on-one advisor, and they can advise you on all that.
And there's also Casey SourceLink, which is represented here downstairs today.
Yeah,
Let's go with this gentleman real quick.
Just make sure you have your personal and business accounts separate.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
I thought the Innovation Center
For
make sure
God's
you
sake, don't do it together.
have.
Keep your business and personal as far apart as you possibly can, because you can buy them together, you'll have one problem.
That's where the proper insurance or LLC comes in. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for both of you. When did you feel comfortable quitting your day job and going completely in on your business?
So
oh, because
it is
so you're.
when I was only sleeping 2 to 3 hours a day. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. And then the next day I went to my director. Since I'm in healthcare, I could switch to PRN status from full time. So I can still work like a part-time. So I still want one of my foot in there, like just in case, so I can come back and, yeah. For me, it was getting through.
It's a good deal. I'm just working backwards real quick on your question about the accounting. I actually work with my accountant in QuickBooks, so they're able to access my financials through QuickBooks as well as me. So I just give them permissions, certain permissions, and they're able to kind of pull that and look through and make sure that everything looks sound.
I'd like to later learn for your accountant.
Yeah, let's say CPAs and all that, yeah, like recommendations.
She's really great. Woman-owned business. She's been saving me for a while, so saving me the hassle. But your question, I worked full time until I was 2020 is when? No, 2021, I think, is when I cut off my full-time job. And to be honest, the decision was behind the time, just like she was saying, like I was working full-time and doing the pop-ups on the side, and it just became a clash. It wasn't worth it for me to continue to work when I wanted to put my all into my business. And it was just time consuming. I knew that I had something special with my pop-up, and I was like, I know that if I take this leap now, then I'll be able to kind of make better moves later on. Because if I stick to this job and I stick to doing the pop-up part-time, it just kind of was like selling myself short. So.
And you did that during COVID. 2021 was still part of all of that. So you're very impressive.
Yeah, well, it was forced, you know, like it was not forced, but it was a decision that was like, look, I can't continue to, I'm having to make the pizza dough and I'm having to like do the social media and I'm maybe, you know, I'm having to do all the business things behind the scenes. And then I'm like, there's more opportunities coming. There's people asking me, hey, would you want to do this pizza party? And so like when I looked at the financials and I looked at the numbers and my accountant said, well, you know, it's going great. You know, like just look at what your books look like. And if they say, okay, I can cover my costs, I can cover my expenses as well as the business
You're a
expenses.
team of one.
That's what I was just about to ask.
So
You have to have a bigger team coming into a brick and mortar.
right, so technically, I have other teammates. I have a lot of contract work that I do, so a lot of people that help me, they'll be on contract. And so when I do pop-ups, when I do private events and things like that, I hire people on to help me out with that. When I'm at the Overland Park Farmers Market, I have people to help me out with that. But my struggle was, yes, finding and solidifying a team, because if you do that early on, then that saves you a lot of time and energy if you're able to delegate. That was kind of my struggle, was trying to find the right people to help me in the right time, especially with a pop-up, because pop-ups, you know, they're different hours, you're doing different events, it's kind of all over the place. Even if you are at a consistent spot, it is hard to say, hey, you know, will you quit your job and work with me and like, you know, do this thing? Because it's more of a like part-time type of gig. So you just have to be conscious of that. Like, yeah, I'm shifting into brick and mortar within this year. And right now we're building team, you know, we're training, we're having to like, you know, eat a little bit of cost to hire people, because you have to build a team. Like, you're not going to be able to grow, you're not going to be able to function if you don't have people on your side. And so I had a lot of like gracious help from my partner. They were able to help me with, you know, administrative things and operations and certain things. But sometimes, you know, you don't have that. So it's up to you to like go out and go find those people. Sometimes it comes with posting on social media and saying, hey, I need help with a certain event. But yeah, it's been that is definitely, I'd say, a struggle. I feel like with getting anybody to help with a restaurant, it is, you know, with any job nowadays, it's kind of hard to retain and to keep people in there. So you just have to find the right people and vet and make sure that when you do the interview, you have the right person, you have someone that's committed and, you know.
Very challenging. Finding the right staff members to support you is going to be one of the biggest challenges you will face. And folks, I'll tell you, your friends and family may not, easy answer, but may not be the right answer. They will be willing to tell you yes, 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 even though it may be a no, no, no. So just be mindful of that. So I can certainly see how rules and regulations have a big impact on everything we're doing. In fact, we just spent over 20 minutes talking about those things. It's going to be one of the bigger hurdles you face as you get started on your pop-up business. Some other big hurdles you might face is your menu. So let's take a minute to talk about menuing. And Chef, maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you decided on your final selections, or what are the processes you're using to evaluate your menu right now? And I'll pose that to both of you, please.
Yeah, well, I think I briefly talked about that, so I was more interested in everyone's, really, what their idea is.
So you'll do taste testings and then alter your ingredients to match what people are giving the thumbs up on?
Yes, about 40% of what other people think and 60% of what I think.
Okay.
Like, I know it. Like, this is off. I want it to be 50% Korean and 50% American. I want both of the best worlds together, and I can tell. So like and then when you're making sauces, you can't make small batch. You have to make a lot, and then you throw it away. I did it about like 70, 80 times
So
Yeah.
menu development is a time consuming and expensive thing. It really is all about development, and a lot of the product you're going to develop is not going to be your final product. So you can find a use for that, but if it's not what you want, you may not want to put it out on the market.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a process for you. You have a definite flavor profile that you're looking to match.
Right.
So maybe you could walk me through, once you finalize that, do you write a menu or do you write a recipe for that?
Okay, so every batch that I was making, I was writing it down how I made it, and then sauce settles. You have to give it a few days or a few hours to days. And I have also Korean cuisine, it has a lot of marinades and fermented ingredients, so it has to sit. So things change, the taste changes. So that was even more complex. And when you put it in the burger or different items or salad or sandwich, it also changed because like I didn't realize before, but 2 buns will mask that flavor. So it will have to be thicker so I can put more sauce in it, or it will drip out everywhere. So that everything, even though I like cooking, that was a lot of experiment.
It also depends on your bread too.
Exactly. So I was trying this sauce with different bread, and so I have it all written down, and then I have to throw it away, and finally.
This is kind of like a joint question because you both are starting like new lanes in your business, both launching a new business in a way. What is your opinion on doing like soft openings? And if you do a soft opening, are you doing it? Yeah, of course, because you are with soft openings, you are giving out free food just to see how it comes back. Do you guys make it more intimate? Like I'm trying to invite my family, see how they get, or do you make it something that is public and see how you really like? What is your experience in the lane? Yeah.
Both, and I have different language for different audience for surveys too. So I have Google survey that they have to fill it out before they go.
Like I'm doing a soft opening, come and just like fully indulge.
Soft opening doesn't necessarily mean you don't charge the people. I did my soft opening charge.
I had a lot of mixed reviews, like some servers, you give out a little sample.
But it doesn't have to be a lot. You don't have to charge them like $15 or $10 for it, but you should charge them a little something, because you gotta get something back.
Yeah.
Not just because I'm trying to make money out of soft opening, but you have to charge to see if they're going to ask again. I'm going to pay that for $12.99 to buy it again. You want to see that. You want to test that.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I've ever done any soft openings with my product. I've really just like on the ground at the pop-ups with the community doing
Yeah, that's
certain
why
things.
I was at line, because that's how I started. Like I used to kind of like sell plates out of my mom's house, and now I'm growing bigger into something else. So I didn't know if I just take that and carry on, like, well, I'm here on a bigger scale, or if I try to like sprinkle into the public like this is something different.
I think honestly, it really depends on your product. It depends on like where you're at. There's a lot of like factors because honestly, like I feel like I got really lucky with the niche that I'm in, like pizza, mobile pizza specifically, there's not a lot of it. So it's like I was able to kind of share that, and that's a whole new experience. People watching me make that product and like outside and tossing the dough. And so there's like a whole other factor with that. I don't know like what products you're thinking about, selling and stuff, but to do a soft opening or to do a collaborative type of pop-up with like other pop-ups. So whether that is other food vendors or other just pop-up vendors. So, vintage clothing, I did a lot of collaborations early on, and I think that solidified a really great way for me to expand and for people to kind of learn the name and understand my product and understand what my brand was, because those collaborations really, really held a lot. Like, people are reposting this event that you guys are doing, and so everyone is circulating that throughout social media. So it is like a really, really good way of kind of showcasing what you do, and just kind of forming a family of pop-ups and people that are doing those similar things, and kind of creating a different vibe for people in the city, I think that that goes a long, long way for sure.
So how did you decide, coming to this menuing, how did you decide how broad or narrow your menu? Especially, because I know 10 years from now it might be different, but right now, what is your advice for deciding and determining that menu? How broad?
So the reason why I chose certain menu items with my like pizza toppings and things, I kept it to like 5 pizza options. 5 to 6 pizza options. I knew that I could only put certain things in the cooler that would fit. So it's like, all right, like if I'm gonna be at this event and it's 4 hours long, I need to be able to transport those items, and I need to make sure that I'm able to like prep enough of that item. So a lot of times, like I would build my menu around kind of the same elements. So I would have like traditional pizzas where it'd be like pepperoni and cheese always, always offer that for kids, families, like for, the plain Jane people out there, like, so keep it simple. Then I had some like more adventurous options on my pizza menu where it'd be like, black garlic ricotta and different, things that like I would be wanting to kind of showcase and have people try. And so those became hits and those became actual staples on my menu. A lot of people would ask for those specific things. And so like when building my menu, it really came around the cost, the food cost of it, but also wrapped around the travel and transportation. Like, how am I going to be able to transport all these items? Because if you have a bunch of different things and a bunch of different toppings, that's just not going to work. But I'm different than other pizzerias. A lot of other pizzerias, they just do a plethora of toppings and you choose whatever you want. I was like, no, I'm going to teach my consumers that you can only order this way. Like, yes, you can, if you're allergic to mushrooms, like, of course, or if you're like, you're not feeling this or you don't want that on your item, like I don't want spinach, then we will, take that off or we'll sub for like certain things that we have on our menu. But it was always written where you would have to order it the way that it was made. Because for one, that benefits me where I don't have to bring in a whole bunch of different stuff. There's not a lot of choices that you have to make. There's not a whole board of toppings, a whole bunch of different things. It is very like streamlined so that I could efficiently get that product to you. So that's really how I made it.
So in the event that just so happened, nobody shows up for work, you can do it yourself. You see what I'm saying?
That too, yeah. That too, and it's like not overcomplicating your menu either. Like if there's, you have a burger, a sandwich, or you have, a pizza, and you have all these different things on there, like that's just more work, like why not have 3 to 4 items on that and just keep it tight? It's just like places like Cane's. They only have chicken strips, fries, toast, and sauce.
Coleslaw.
Like there's only like 5 items and they're just kind of tweaking that certain thing, but they're successful because you're able to scale that and you're able to streamline the mind, because when people have too much choice, then it just sends them
out of hand
and they feel overwhelmed and they just don't want to.
And keep in mind, any menu product that you add, if it's a shredded cheese, there's going to be paperwork involved to that. You're going to have to develop a HACCP plan around each and every item. So as we're talking menu selections, it's important to know what your capabilities are, what your capacities are, to ensure that the menu products that you're adding not only make good fiscal sense, that you're not going to lose your shirt, burn your apron, so to speak, when you sell these things, but it's important to know that I can use this product maybe 2 or 3 times in different dishes, so I don't have to hold this 5 different ways, because that will really shoot yourself in the foot. And I apologize, I'm looking at the time. We've got about 7 minutes left, and I do want to have a few minutes open for question and answers. But I'm real curious about. So we know we want to start a pop-up, and we're going to do some research and we're going to do some development. We're going to make some folks happy. How do we get the word out there about this? How I know you started very organically. What's your next step? What are you going to do there?
Yeah, so I had to develop a marketing plan, you know, like especially moving from pop-up to brick and mortar. That is a whole different ballgame. I've never opened a shop before. So this is just kind of like I know how to market myself. I know how to market the product. I know how to be on social media and be present. But like it really comes down to consistency. If you are not consistent on your page, if you are not consistent on what you deliver, if you are not consistent on the events that you host or that you're there at, then people are not going to know where to find you. They're not going to know what this is. And so you have to make sure that every post that you make, everything that comes out is consistent, and it's maybe starts with you posting 2 times a week, or you know, once a day, and then that goes up to once a day, and then that goes up to, you know, a little bit more. But I realized that early on, I started my Instagram account for Devoured. It was actually supposed to be a magazine concept. So I was designer before I was in the culinary space. And so I started that in 2019. Fast forward now, you know, the concept has changed, of course. I'm a pop-up now, but every single day I make a point of, okay, I have to post my product. I can't get lost in not posting, because if I don't, then people aren't going to see me, right? But it also comes down to like, what are you doing when you are outside with the people, with the community, more than social media? Do you have business cards? Do you have the right signage? Do you have the right language? Because all of those things are important. And if you don't know how to design, if you don't know how to create those things, then you need to maybe talk to someone that can assist you, or use resources like Canva or things like that to like help you kind of create and streamline posts and other ways of having your product. But I would just, you know, make sure that you have the bare minimum of business cards, like what your concept is, and straightforward your elevator pitch. It's, you know, I focus on mobile pizza, and that's what I do. But when I'm striving to go into this brick and mortar, that's going to be different. That's going to look different. I might have to go and get a billboard. I might have to go to shop and have, hey, I am doing a grand opening. I'm going to be here in the streets, but always have some collateral with you, because the more collateral, you know, just grants more opportunities, and the more that you can talk about your product, and also just be a part of some type of community. You know, go and be a part of some groups, or go be a part of some other like entrepreneurs that are doing some other things, so that they can share your business, so that you can share theirs, and you guys connect in that way. But use other ways to connect, because it's bigger than just, oh, well, I don't really do social media. Like, but you need to right now, you have to keep up with it.
You do. Thank you so much. Chef Chewy, would you tell us a little bit about your marketing strategy?
I think really the most important thing is finding your core and mission statement, and really who you are, really focusing. I'm reading a lot of books in marketing and storytelling. So just focusing on that, and everything like social media and everything will come to you. I think, yes, knowing why you're different.
Yeah, so I think highlighting that, finding out what makes you different, what your niche is, and then consistently promoting that is, and both those things are equally as important. You have to have a strong vision of who you are and what you want, but you also have to be shamelessly, consistently promoting that. And, you know, something I've heard 3 to 4 times today is community. That small businesses need a community, and that's what this event is designed for. Not only to help us get started in small businesses, but to help build that community. So we're looking about 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left. I do want to first off thank our panelists very much. I also have a lot of great questions, and I have a feeling that there's a lot of unanswered questions from the group. Would you folks be available for kind of
Yes, I want to get to know you guys. Don't leave me. Feel free to message me on our social media is on our flyer. Any questions, if you send it to me on Instagram, I'll answer.
Can I ask a question? So when you started pop-up or when you started at events, did you have a POS system? If so, like what made you decide to go with that specific one?
I'm with Square.
I'm with Squares.
Yeah, because I researched, starting out, I think it makes the most sense. And then as you have, yeah, if you want more like monthly fee and then you don't have to pay per transaction, then move on. But I feel like Square, again, just
Square not only is probably the most popular, but they have a lot of good support behind them as well. I'm not saying go with that one, there's
Right.
other services.
yeah,
but that
there
is a
are
good
other.
Yeah, the reason why I went with Square is because I was able to do a website, have a POS, and run all those things through that. And so it was just, it just made it much easier. Yeah, Square Online.
You can do a website in Square.
Yeah. You can, even if you use like Wix, like I never based, I make all my own. Square basically. Like when you go into, really just depends on your business and what settings are.
Yeah, once you need analytics.
All the it's an easy upgrade, like anything on.
How long have you had that you pop up? Or you like, how hard you're, in fact, I moved on to the.
I think you repeat her question. Repeat her question because I couldn't hear her.
Yeah, she had thought the timeline involved from around the pop-up to the next step.
I think it really depends because you will have a belief like in you, and as you are, it doesn't matter, you do a soft opening and do all of this for 10,000 people and they all said, sell it, do it. And then if you're not sure, then you're not sure. But if you're doing it to like 100 people, okay, I'm getting that's the word I was looking for. And that's where I'm going, it will just resonate with you. And once you know that, okay, I need to be in this. If I'm not in here doing this 100% of my time, then it's a waste. But you will feel that way, 0% failure, that you'll get that, then that's the time.
I'm gonna say for me, I felt like my business was at a point, like a breaking point of like, I need to have a brick and mortar. People keep asking, people keep like wanting to have a spot, wanting to have a space to come and have my pizza. So it was kind of like just happened organically. I mean, I've been popping up, this will be 2.5 years, which that doesn't count the time that I was in my backyard. So about 3 years probably total. But that was just a thought of, okay, well, the food truck thing, I don't think is gonna fit my business model because I want to create some type of like more community vibe and I want people to be able to sit in my establishment and like have that type of thing. And so that really just kind of me being at the farmer's market, me being at all these events and people are like, hey, where's your location? Every single time, every single customer, it's like, I need a location because I could really be benefiting from this and I could, still work with the community and still do these pop-ups, but I need some type of hub and home base. So that was really my decision making.
Where is your location?
It's gonna be in Union Hill area in Kansas City. Sorry.
You're where Lupe's was?
Not quite on main area, but a little bit further back.
Like a home?
Oak, no, it'll be like around Cherry area. We hope to open in the next 6 to 8 months. We are raising funds for investments right now. And so if you know a friend, share us. We have some cards on the table. They're orange by Devoured. But yeah, head down, just trying to grind it out and getting the funds to get a build out, pay the architects, get all these things together. But it's a lot of stepping stones when it comes to brick and mortar for sure. It's a different beast when you think about all the moving parts of that. But yeah, you just have to be patient in your journey. You can't go out and rush, and it just doesn't make sense to do that.
But if you did it all over, you would start as a pop-up again.
Oh, for sure. Yes, it's the cheapest way to go and get your name out there. You can change the menu at any point. You can basically flex in and do whatever you want. You have a lot of creative freedom when it comes to being a pop-up. And I think that it's hard for restaurants or hard for food trucks to be able to change and mold the way that pop-ups are able to. So my advice is, yes, start as a pop-up, see if you're into it, see if people are into your products, see if, you want to build a team around this thing and kind of go from there, because it's the cheapest way to get along in your journey. And you can make a lot of connections while doing that, so.
I think, folks, if you don't mind, we'll have to end on that note. Thank you so much. We do need to vacate the room for a minute. Now we'll go forward and meeting at each of your pop-ups.
Yeah, what's your idea?
I already said what's going downtown.